think that the first 5 to 10 years in this industry, at least for me, but I think for a lot of people that I talk to, my friends, or it's kind of like a research. You're searching for your own sound. You're searching for like to elevate your taste, and it's kind of like you're a teenager and you want to become an adult. You're
Mm.
like you are discovering yourself.
Pro Audio Secrets, a show that helps you to find your own voice in sound. In this episode of Pro Audio Secrets, I'm talking with Paul Renard, a sound designer from France who lives in Amsterdam, who is actually known all over the world through his videos that he's making, his breakdowns about his sound design process. From TV to game audio in a short nutshell, that's his journey. And we also talk about the industry in general and how he sees the situation now for people entering. And of course, we also talk a little bit about mentoring because we're both into mentoring and actually started Pro Audio Academy together for all of you if you want to get some mentoring and help to elevate quicker within your career. So that's what we're talking about. And if that's for you, enjoy the episode. We met 2 years ago at the Gamescom game
Yes.
audio meetup in Cologne, and we ran into each other. You basically know me from my brand, The Foley Teacher, so you
Yes.
just and we had some contact on LinkedIn. You just messaged me a couple of weeks or something ago, and so we got into this conversation, which lasted really long that night. I think we
Yeah,
talked
actually, for
talked
two
a lot.
hours or something.
Yeah, it was really nice, and I
It's really
even
nice to
made
meet
like
you.
I even made a really sweet reel of you doing some Foley performance there
Yeah.
in the street,
It
and
was fun. Those footsteps.
so yeah, you go also way back, huh? You even interned in France, the motherland of Foley, you can say.
Yeah.
In a Foley studio, which is really rare because in France, I believe Foley studios are more like a family-based business, and it's
Mm.
always from father to son. So that you
Yeah.
came in there and interned is a big deal for you. And can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about where you're coming from and what you currently do?
Sure. So I started 8 years ago, and I graduated from school in Paris, an audio engineer school. I was top of my class, so that led me to uh, work in a big movie studio that was based in the 15th district in Paris, and I worked there for a few months, and and I kind of met a lot of people. I worked on a few movies, several movies, and then I became a freelancer and worked for countless TV shows. I started as a sound editor, um, and then moved to sound designer, and I was doing Foley's for a few TV shows. I mean, several TV shows, and yeah, I learned a lot. Kind of like on the job itself.
Hmm. For me, so let me recoup what you just said, what I understood. So
Yeah.
after you graduated from the school, you then landed a job right away because you were top of your class.
I
So
mean,
how did this
yeah.
thing work? Like from being top of your class and then being in that great studio in Paris, what happened between?
Between what, the job or the?
Now, between finalizing your graduation and then landing the job, because I understand you landed the job
Yeah.
because you were top of your class at uni.
I mean, not really because I was top of my class, but that helped. It always helped to be, of course. It proves to an employer, that you are dedicated to doing this and full time. You absolutely want to do this, and it shows passion, and
Yeah.
and I think that's what most employers and most audio people wants to see. Like, actually, even me, when I now work with other people, I mean, I absolutely want them to be as passionate as I am. It's like us
Which can be
working
tricky
together.
at times. I sometimes I made the experience that having the expectations that you have for yourself,
Mm,
that to put that on others
mm,
sometimes can be very destructive, especially when you are in a company, kind of in a team.
yeah,
It gets really tricky. I think as a freelancer, it's less of a problem. Or even if you hire
yeah,
people out, you hire freelancers. I think you totally can expect that.
mm,
But if you're like part of a team of a big audio
yeah,
team, it's a bit tricky, especially when you have then people, let's say a junior, and you have the same expectations that you have on yourself towards that junior.
yeah,
Um, Maybe relating to, this was how I did perform when I was at that stage in my career.
yeah,
This can be really harmful if you're not aware of it.
yeah.
It's
I
like,
understand what you say, um, but I do think that if you want to succeed in this industry, you absolutely need to have this kind of passion that ignites you on daily basis. Because if not, you will at some point feel either really overwhelmed by a job that you like, wow, that's like asking you way too much of your time, or either you're just gonna quit at some point because the industry is not so stable, and maybe you need something more stable for yourself,
mm, yeah,
which is
yeah.
also fair.
I
But
never could really understand that people would give up audio as a career in terms of now they work completely different job. I mean, I can follow the train of thought, but I
yeah,
cannot empathize with that for myself.
hmm.
So you're basically telling me you didn't land the job simply because you were top of your class. So what happened that you could land that right
Oh,
after your university?
well, I searched for a few months. I was in the street grinding, going to every studio. I wasn't just sending mail. That's what I mean. I
Mm,
think when you're searching on a local base, which was Paris for me, but maybe for you was Düsseldorf or Berlin, or
Berlin,
depending
yeah.
where you are. But when you start, um, if you want to show also that to people that you're dedicated, it's against the same kind of the same thing. Like you cannot just be sending emails because people won't see your email probably, or they just don't care. They don't need you also,
Mm,
because you're a junior, you're starting. It's not like you have so much to propose that can really elevate their business. So what you need to show is that you really want that job more than anyone and more than anything else. And so for me it was really yeah, going in the streets, um, writing down all of those studios that were in Paris and going there
mm,
with my CV, and the little experiences that I already had, because I've done a few internship before in TV. um, and
during
so
your
yeah,
studies.
yeah, during my studies I was all the time in internship. Actually, it was really, I was working in a few studios for production. I was also recording on sets.
Hmm.
I was doing a lot of sound field recording and a bit of mixing also for TV, commercials, recordings. Yeah, I think when you already, I think when you are in the school, at the school, you really need to focus on getting as many internship as you can,
Hmm.
if you can, of course. And I was also working on the side, so it was quite hard for me because I was also working as a, bartender, waiter, or whatever that could get me money. So basically, I wasn't sleeping much, to be fair. But I really
Okay.
wanted that job, so yeah, I think it's all about going out there, meeting people, especially on a local basis. Of course, we're not talking about international jobs as we do now, work with more international community. It's completely different, but you need this base to be able to start building, I think, your credibility towards this professional world, especially on a international base. You need to have worked already, um, on the local base.
Yeah. Nowadays, it's getting harder and harder to find those opportunities to learn from people directly within a company, I
Yeah.
believe. And then also many people are facing the situation that they're not living in Paris or Berlin.
Yeah,
For
I
example,
understand.
Ben Jacquier, someone I
Yeah,
also interviewed already, he lives in the mountains somewhere in the Alps, and he
yeah, yeah,
never
yeah. That's true.
went to the city and interned. So it's also possible these days, when you be smart and present yourself in a very interesting way, and that's
Yeah.
what Ben is doing basically, right?
But I think that's the power of social media. Today we have free marketing platforms on free access. So if you're smart about it and you're consistent, you can really go far. And also Ben Jackie's videos are amazing. To be fair, they're fun and straightforward, which they illustrate very well how to make sounds for any kind of media and I think that's what people loves about it.
Yeah, and it displays as well his proficiency and the results that he can come up with, and therefore people hire him, not because he's living in Paris, but because they know
Yeah.
what he can do. And how would they know that if he didn't put out that
Yeah.
content?
I
So
just think being in Paris or in Berlin helps in the beginning of a career to at least get a few internships and to get to land the first real experience with people that are more senior and they will show you what's the actual job is all about, instead of
yes,
just having those,
100%.
instead of having these, this feedback from your teachers or that don't really tells you much in the end. They're just like, okay, they're part of your what you're expecting, but then you have a lot of expectation and actually having to learn this first experience helps you to kind of like know what the clients wants and therefore you can start as a freelancer afterwards. That's what I've done and then I've worked for several studios and this is how I started.
So when you did the whole freelancing, then was that also going from studio to studio within Paris, or did you have your home studio set up and working from home, or how can I imagine that?
So I started going from studio to studio, and I was, yeah, but I was at the same time I was putting a lot of money on the side to start building also my own studio. So that was the first idea. I wanted to make my own studio in Paris. So, but then of course COVID happened like 2 years
Mm.
after. So I worked for like 2 3 years I think full time as freelancer in Paris, making TV shows, movies, working on recordings also, doing a lot of recordings. It was really nice. I learned a lot also. um, I wasn't really rich, but I was still putting a lot of money on the side, and that helped me to really gather a lot of like a good audio interface, a good microphones, good synthesizers that helped me to kind of start building my tools to create my own studio. And I was also gathering a lot of objects since I was
Mhm.
doing some Foley also. So being in a big city like Paris was really helping because sometimes I was just going back from work or going back from the bar with my friends and just seeing those people just leaving weird objects in the streets, and it was just like, wow, like this for example that I found in the street, which I think is like really nice to craft more to have kind of a layer for fireworks or things like this. um, I mean different several objects that you can find in the street, and if they sound
Mm.
great you can just gather them, and it took me like a few years to really have of this object, and I have way more outside of this room that I'm using here. And yeah, um, and so yeah, and then COVID happened, and so it was a bit more complicated. But then I worked a lot from home, and yeah, and then I decided to move to Amsterdam after I met my girlfriend,
Mm.
and that's how
From
I
one big
started
city
also.
to the other city.
Yes, and this is where I started to build more of an international community and put myself a lot online.
Yeah, I saw your videos. I see them all the time. I really enjoy them. I think you're one of the top people putting out useful sound design content. And
Thank you. I appreciate
how's
it.
how's that journey going for you? How did it start, and what did it actually bring you for now?
So it started because I wanted to make a really good portfolio to be able to showcase my work to companies and eventually land a job, which I did. I did landed a few jobs actually.
Hmm.
Um, but then with the industry also, recently there has been a lot of layoffs. There has been a lot of studios closing, and so this like it was more and more complicated, and so that's why I kind of like stayed freelancer for now, and not working full time, but still working a lot as a sound designer. Um, and so I started by making a few videos. Then I was like, oh wow, that people are actually reacting quite well to it, and
Mm.
so and then I just continued, and now I cannot stop. It's like I need to put those content out there. I think it's also a way of like showing people that you're capable of making these sounds. It's also kind of a research plan. Like I see it kind of like, I think the first 5 to 10 years in this industry, at least for me, but I think for a lot of people that I talk to, my friends, or it's kind of like a research. You're searching for your own sound. You're searching for like to elevate your taste, and you're searching. It's kind of like you're a teenager and you want to become an adult. You're
Mm.
like you are discovering yourself in terms of taste and in
Yeah,
terms of what you want to do also, because it's like in the beginning you're like, yeah, I want to get any job. So then you get the first jobs that comes up, and sometimes people treat you badly because you're a junior, and they don't respect your time, and because you don't make them too much money either. But so then like the first few jobs I think are quite hard, because you're like trying to find yourself still, and people don't really respect your time so much, and they treat you as a youngling. And and so yeah and so now I think I found my sound, and I'm just trying to share how I make my sounds myself, and it's also a way to put it out and to kind of speed it out, like, okay, just tell what you have to say, and if people like it, it's great, you can work with them, and if they don't like it, well, they can just go see someone else, I guess.
yeah, of course. So that's exactly the thing that when I tried also to dense down what it is really that I want to help people with.
Hmm.
And I came up with that sentence: to help you to find your unique voice and sound.
Yeah,
And that's basically what you just said. And I also agree that this comes over time, and maybe also it changes over time.
of
So, for
course.
example, I built up my career coming from music and then learning all the fundamentals of the audio post production world. I
Hmm.
went through 2.5 years of an apprenticeship and then landed my first position as an intermediate sound designer,
Hmm.
working then on a TV series for a whole year, doing everything except for the Foley performance and the final mix. But all
Hmm.
the other stuff went through my hands. And that's how I learned. And also how I developed my style or my taste, and also how I learned what is actually needed for a movie scene, or how
Hmm.
does it have to sound that it actually works
Exactly. Yeah.
within the context of the medium. And this is a
How to make
progress.
it work. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a progress that I see myself going through still.
Hmm.
I'm very happy to change my recording techniques or my performance or whatever it is, in order to get to the next level and deliver even better stuff.
Hmm.
So now I, of course, know how it has to sound, and what actually translates, and what helps the scene, and how it blends together with the dialogue and all these things. This is kind of natural to me through all the experience and the work I put in.
Exactly. Yeah. Hmm.
But but still sometimes, like the last movie I did, I always had like the problem of the cloth movement. It doesn't feel like it's
Hmm.
there yet. I'm not sure what to do with it. And
Hmm.
I mean,
But
sometimes
I
it's just
think that's what's beautiful about this. Sorry to cut you off, but I think
noise.
I just wanna talk about what you're saying, and um, I think that's what's beautiful about this industry is that we're kind of learning constantly. We're never It's a never-ending story about learning, and also because the tech is kind of evolving continuously, and you're yeah, you're always getting somewhere. There's always a new goal. That's what keeps us also so, intrigued and interested into working in this industry, I think.
Mm. And then working with peers as well is something that can elevate you in in finding your unique voice, or altering, or just elevating it.
Hmm.
For example, there was this one guy from Belgium. I did a feature film for them, and then they said, maybe think about Foley in a way that it is less of a problem if you have a little bit of room on the recording.
Hmm.
Like, let's say it's an outdoor scene. My goal was always to make it as dry as possible, so that you don't feel the room ambience of my studio, although
Hmm.
it's very like treated room, but still. And then they said, no, this little bit of a room, if you put the mic further away, or maybe make it more off axis and put it further away, is way less of a problem than the harsh transients you generate when you have like a dirty street or something.
Hmm.
Um, so that was a realization that really changed my whole recording technique. I even now use this microphone that I have here, sometimes in addition to the ones that place
Yeah,
towards the ground,
kind of the
to
room
give it more
microphone.
air. Yeah, it's not a
Yeah.
room microphone. I use it more for my cloth sounds. It's like 60, 70, up to a meter away, maybe from where I'm sitting.
Hmm.
But to add that from a different perspective, like a little bit up high, and then record footsteps, it gives the whole thing a bit more room to breathe, a bit more air, and therefore the sounds get even better implemented and embedded into the dialogue and the production sound.
Yeah, yeah.
So these things, they never stop if you're open for feedback, and if you're also willing to listen to what you're actually doing.
Hmm.
um, then there is always a next step and something to learn. And then all the things about audio engineering, I mean, I usually I don't want to talk too much about the technical stuff, but this is just
Hmm.
coming to mind. For example, once I just unclicked my filters on the preamp.
Hmm.
So then only after a while I realized, this actually sounds better now. The cloth movement, the last movie I did. So I thought, now the filter is out, and I realized it because I had like a huge low end kind of noise on the cloth movement track, so you could
Hmm.
really see it in the waveform. Like, what's going on? That's this much low end cannot be. So, and then I realized, okay, the I switched off the filter for something else that I did. Yeah,
Hmm.
and then but then I realized actually the little bit more high end that I gained through not having a high cut on it actually made the Foley work better for that particular movie. So
Hmm.
then what I did then is I, of course, engaged the filter again, and then just put the high cut filter a little bit, less
Yeah.
aggressive. So, and then I had way easier life to get the things into the like whole scene.
Hmm.
So it's just like a tiny little bit of
A
high
detail
cut.
can change everything.
Yeah,
It's true.
definitely.
Like audio is a chain, and your chain needs to be perfect from the microphone, the actual source to the final mix. You know,
Yeah, definitely.
I think.
So, how is this whole journey going for you now with putting out content and making yourself um, seen from the world, and also respected through the value that you bring? What good did it already bring you?
Um, I think it's really interesting to be able to speak with people that you know, most people that I talk to, they're sort of all willing to work with me, and that's an achievement in a way that, because they see the videos, they see the work, and they're like, oh wow, I love the attention to details that you put in your work, and
Hmm.
therefore I would like to work with you. And I think it's as simple as this, in a way that, people wants to work that with people that, pay attention to details, and that knows
Yeah.
actually what they're doing, with the
I mean, that's
microphone.
exactly the thing. Huh? You have to prove to someone that wants to work with you or even hire you that you are able to do the task, that you're up
Yeah.
for the task and you don't need a
Hmm.
long period of training.
Of course, yeah.
And and that's maybe the thing that so
Because
many people
there's,
are
yeah,
are missing these days because
yeah,
they finish the university, they don't find this mentorship kind of within a company like we
yeah.
did. So they're kind of back with YouTube tutorials,
I
just
mean,
working on their own.
I think there's still internships. There's a few internships that are actually quite hard to find, but still for big companies. I think I've seen one at Riot recently, or there's also one maybe at Ubisoft from time to time, but
Mm,
it's way more rare. That's true. Or I think for like big companies, it's even better to be directly within the the city where they're at, to find an internship. So as we said
mm,
before, it would be better to be in Paris for Ubisoft, for example, or in Montreal, than if you live in the Alps like Ben Jacquier, for example. But
mm,
that 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 makes sense. But I think the hardest thing is that, especially, there's not really junior roles, and even if sometimes you can see, oh, there's like a junior opening, but you always see these like, yeah, we need 3 years experience, or like 2 3 title game shifts, and it's like, yeah, but then it's not really a junior role, it's more like a mid-level that's going to be paid like a junior role.
mm.
So that's controversial, I think. Um but yeah, so
We touched on that in a conversation we had before. Huh? You said that the companies are also not really willing to hire juniors anymore because what happens is they train them up for 9 months and
yeah,
then they
we
already
talked
start
about it last
looking.
time, yeah.
Yeah, they already start looking for intermediate roles with
But I
other
think
companies.
this, yeah, exactly. So I think this actually doesn't touch only the video game industry. This touches any any big industry, especially the tech industries in general. So video game is kind of sort of part of it. Is that, they would hire a junior, and I was speaking about this with a friend who's like a principal software engineer in a big tech company, and he that's actually his words more than mine. Is like, yeah, if we hire juniors, usually juniors are gonna, not provide so much work for a few months, and they will just like learn on the job, and we
Mm,
will teach them, and I will basically help them, um, figure out how to code, or how to do their task. It could be the same in sound design. And after like a year maybe, where they can actually start, working, um, and do something that's actually valuable for the company, well,
mm,
usually they will get, opening in other companies. And, let's say you're paid 50K in a company, and like, okay, maybe this company wants to offer you a mid-level role now, and you will get maybe 2K 3K more max, like really max, when like another company that would hire you, you can negotiate way more money. So so then you would get a mid-level. Of course, you would go maybe to another company and get more money out of it, which is fair. But at the same time, it's not fair for the company that just hired you
mm.
1 year ago as a junior, and put it so much, time and investment towards other people within the company, to teach you how this company works. But then you're leaving. I mean, you see what I mean? Like, it's just.
Definitely. Quick one. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do me the favor and do it now. It really helps us to grow the channel and to reach more people and to share more pro audio secrets with all of you. That's it. Let's get back to the episode. I mean, there's this general advice that people shouldn't stay too long in the same company. no matter what industry, because your salary goes way more high when
Yeah.
you change every 3 years, I think is the basic rule.
Yeah, but then I think
Um,
it's unfair a bit for the companies, and therefore I do also understand why it's more hard nowadays with all these, like these economical issues they're having, that they don't want to, risk it with junior roles because
hmm.
they would more lose time and money by investing like even more. If I mean, depending on the junior, of course, there's like junior people that are great, but a lot of them would probably struggle, and which is normal in the end. But
Yeah, what can we do about that? I mean, my idea is the Pro Audio Academy. I want to really push this as hard as I can to help people get this industry experience, or at least some best practices, that they are better prepped for their first job, and that they already start into what we just talked about,
yeah,
investigating within themselves for their unique sound that they can offer, and
yeah,
this all through practice. So
exactly,
in
yeah,
my in my vision, the Pro Audio Academy is really an online learning community that is striving for excellence through
yeah.
doing the work. Yeah,
I
together.
think, yeah,
Yeah,
no, yeah. To speak like towards what you're saying, I think it's what could be really interesting is to help people by mentoring them and by providing them some sort of a industry experience without actually being in the industry, if that makes sense.
yes,
Is
that's exactly what I want to do.
so people can actually feel confident enough to apply for a mid-level role, without without having the actual experience, and but feel confident that they can do the job directly.
Hmm.
So I think that's why I'm also with you today, and that's why we talk about this audio mentorship together, because I think it's also really interesting, because it's something that I see a lot of people are struggling with, and I was also struggling with. I mean, not really when I started in the movie, but with the video game industry, I think I was also a bit struggling with this, and and yeah, so I think that could be something that we could offer, and yeah, and
We
I think
should
this
offer,
we should
because
offer, and this would
we
be
have
also
it within
really,
us. It's something
yeah,
we both are
and
really
it's,
passionate about. I know you also are a teacher
yeah,
in certain
yeah.
other
I was teaching
institutions,
at the
right?
university, actually. Yeah, yeah, I was teaching, and but I think, yeah, I think it's really what I was gonna say something, but I lost it.
No
Sorry.
worries. So the whole thing about this mentorship is really to help people
Yeah.
um, being accountable with others, so that they really stick through the process of doing the work over and over again.
Hmm.
Because I have certain experiences with students, or people that I know, that they study, they know all the basics, but
Mm.
they really don't invest themselves in really grinding on the work, and they
But
don't work.
because they don't know really what they want. Like, I see a lot of students that I had also, that they're like, yeah, I want to be a sound designer, but then they also want to be a music producer, and they also want
Mm,
to be a composer for games, or and like, yeah, but you need to know what you really want to do, because if you're putting yourself out there as like, all of these at the same time, people are going to think, so either, okay, that's great, and then you will work full time maybe as a freelancer for indie jobs, then that could be possible, but this is more rare. And if you absolutely want to work for a company, people want, people that are specialists in their
mm.
field.
Highly skilled,
Yes, because you have,
experienced.
because if you learn all of this, you will be kind of like medium good to everything, which is fine for maybe more indie work, I would say, where
Not
you
even
don't.
indie work. I see this more in a field of you making corporate videos,
Yeah.
like little explain videos that corporates need for their staff or for
Yeah.
whatever. That is something that you're very well set as a generalist, because you can offer
Yeah.
the service, and then this is also I think a good way to earn decent money.
Yeah.
So I
No,
don't
it's
see
we're
I
not
don't
saying
see
it's
value in
bad,
that. Yeah,
but
it's
I
not bad.
think if you want to become really, really good at a craft, you have to dedicate way more time into one specific task and focus on this one for at least, 5 years, like really grinding on this specific topic, which could be as a technical sound designer, for example. It's like you have to focus on how to code, how to implement the sound, how to create maybe tools that could enhance the workflow from the sound designers to the actual program and the programmers. And as a creative sound designer, it's of course going through all of those methods, how to create these certain types of sound that will then be helpful in a game environment or in a movie environment. Like for example, for a movie, it would be more like creature. I mean, for any type of work, just learning how to create creature sounds, how to create UE sounds, how to and really dedicate time and maybe money also, if you want to buy a few microphones and to enhance your gears and tools. Yeah, I think dedication and is the key. Being
Yeah,
dedicated into your craft and
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 also
willingness.
what I realized is, like 5-6 years ago, if you knew Wise, you were already like a top candidate, even for a company like Ubisoft, for any role basically.
Okay.
But this has dramatically changed, right? I mean, now
Yeah.
everyone knows that. And the thing that I basically see, if you want to stand out, you know a little bit more about coding. We talked before about
Yeah.
Blueprint, about maybe C sharp or C++.
C++. Yeah.
So these things, if you know that, I think companies would be more interested these
Yeah.
days,
Of
because
course.
proving that you are tasteful in sound design, that you know Wise, that you have
Hmm.
worked with Unity and Unreal Engine. This is basically standard these days.
Yeah.
And people
It's
people
true.
who really can go deeper than that, I think they are higher appreciated, and are higher on the list. So the
Yeah.
question that I have for you is, where do you see the bridge point between being a technical sound designer and an audio programmer? Like, where's the verge of that?
I think actually, as you were just saying, I think those bridges are gonna, be cut at some point. It means that, like, now the teams are getting reduced, also because they want people that are able to do more tasks than one. Probably in a few years. I mean, if AI doesn't take over all of this techie part of the job, which will take probably years before that. But at some point, probably AI will replace technical sound designers or audio programmers. Maybe there have been announcements actually about this from Zuckerberg, I think, who was saying that they were creating AI that could be mid-level engineers,
Hmm.
and probably in a few years that would replace a lot of roles. So I really don't know where it's gonna go, but I think for now,
Hmm.
where it's going is actually what you were saying, is that now people are, they're more. The jobs are more tricky to get because the teams are reduced, and therefore companies are like, yeah, I want someone who's able to make all the sounds perfect sounds, but I also want someone who's able to do some blueprint work and to work with C++, and that actually understand programmers. When I feel like before that it was way more we're like way more sequenced. How do you call
Mm.
it in English? It was way more
Specialized, yeah.
specialized. Yeah, people were more okay. I was making on I'm gonna make only the sounds, and then this technical sound designer was making more the tools that was enhancing the whole workflow for the sound designers to implement the sounds, and then the audio programmers were more probably working within Unreal, creating all of those, the tools to implement the sounds and to make them very very well working, and debugging, and I think, yeah, that is not the case anymore. I mean, less and less now. People want people that are able to do more than one task because they want to reduce their teams, um, which
Yeah.
which I guess is understandable, given the fact that the economy is not doing so well, and uh, you know
Yeah, that's a whole different topic, especially with the games that they did a lot of betting more or less in these corporate terms.
hmm,
Um, I think it's a lot more in big gaming companies about the revenue and the
yeah.
quarterly targets and the numbers for the
Hmm.
shareholders
I mean,
than actually the creative process anymore.
in the end, we're all dependent on this economy, and even as creative, we cannot go against it. And if it's not going well, then we'll lose our jobs.
Yeah, that's what happened, huh?
As
I
sad
mean,
as it is.
I also got laid off from Ubisoft after I finished the two major games that I worked on for many years.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, I thought you were willing actually to leave Ubisoft to do something else.
no, I was willing to go, but then they were like quicker than I was, which was actually good for me in a way.
Okay.
Um, but also the timing was very tough because I went through a divorce and had the
Yeah.
job and had
You
the
had a
job
very
on.
tough year, right? Was it 2023?
No, it was actually the end of 2023, and then the
And
bulk
then,
of
yeah.
2024 was pretty rough in order to get
Well,
back on track. But
sometimes you gotta go, you gotta fall to be able to,
to
fly.
rise even higher, yeah. I
Yes.
mean, definitely, I'm not complaining at all. It was just a fact that they laid me off.
Hmm.
They didn't say it was because of it wasn't work related. It was just they
Yeah.
rebuilt the team and the infrastructure of the whole studio, and therefore they didn't see Foley as being a part anymore.
Hmm.
So I could also understand because the team was not really um, acting in a way that they really wanted the Foley to be part
Mm.
of their daily work. This was the vision from audit director Stefan Rammelshofer when he
Mm.
built the department, but then things turned out a bit differently. And
Mm.
so I totally understand the decision that they closed down the Foley
Mm.
department. So maybe
Yeah.
I even saw that coming in a way, not
Okay.
consciously, but subconsciously. And I also wanted to do my own thing. And I built my own studio in the
Mm.
other place that is now non-existent anymore.
Yeah.
But that was the start for me, and it was also good that I did it because the experience that I got through building this Dolby Atmos
Mm.
studio, I will always keep with me. So
Mm.
I know a lot more now
Yeah,
about
that's true. Actually,
net
we talked about
audio
it in the book I'm writing. So,
yeah, audio network and how
mm,
to make Dolby Atmos
yeah.
decoding work into from Dante to Ravenna and all
Actually,
these kind of things.
I find it really interesting, the idea of, to become better at something, you have to fail. And I think this is so true. And it also comes back to these junior roles that don't exist because juniors are failing a lot maybe at their job
Mm,
in order to become better, which is the case. Which is the case everywhere. Like, it was the case maybe for you also. You had to like fail in some sort at some things to be able to get better. It's the same for me. Actually, it's fun. I don't know who said that recently that I've seen, but in order to become really good at something, you have to fail a lot. And
mm,
the only people that never make it is actually someone that never tried. someone that was
Yeah.
too afraid to try, and therefore they never tried, and they never made anything, and they're probably gonna have regrets when they're gonna get to their 60s, and they're gonna be like, yeah, I could have tried, but
Yeah. So
and
there's two things to that. One thing, when I was like just starting out after my apprenticeship was finished, and I was then intermediate sound designer, at
Mhm,
a post-production house. I was working on that series the whole year, as I said, and
mm,
there was only this guy that actually became my mentor, Eki Strauss, shoutouts, and he was
mhm,
mixing the whole thing that I did.
mm,
And then while he was mixing 3, 4 episodes, I was already working on the next 3, 4 episodes, so I never attended the final mix. And then we were in the same facility, so sometimes he knocked on my door and then he said something like, "Yeah, look, Bastian, maybe you can separate the telephones more from the ambiances so that if I want to treat them, make them louder or whatever,
mm,
I don't have to look within the ambience tracks, so I have that on dedicated tracks on the ambience effects or something like
mm.
that." And then he always mocks me with this because I can't remember, but he says, "You know what you replied back then? You just said, it's everything there. You just have to make it louder." And
Yeah,
so this was this typical, like, I don't know, I know everything already, so please don't disturb me while I'm working kind of mindset.
yeah, yeah.
But, but this was
But that's the
like,
thing. Also, when you're young, you're like, I feel like when you're younger, at least. I mean, I'm not saying I'm so old, but like when you're younger and you start off, is you also like you're also more hard to work with. Like it's also like because you get more easily touched by whatever people are telling you. When I think it's actually, it's a lesson of humility that everyone
yeah,
should have, is that it's normal that you don't know everything, and it's also normal that people are going after you. And it's also actually a bit of a privilege because you're failing, and people are helping you to
mm,
to you know to to get back
and
up.
maybe even save you.
Yeah, they even
um,
save you. And so
and
yeah, I
so,
think,
for example, um, I realized now that my behavior drastically changed very quickly because
yeah,
when
same
when I
for me.
evolved from those
Hmm.
year doing the TV series, I then started working on movies, and
Hmm.
for me this was a big step up. And I tried to make sure that my work is good enough for that type of medium now.
Hmm.
And then I remember when I did the first movie, the re-recording mixer I have never worked with, but I knew him because he was in the facility from time to time. So I just asked him, like, "Matthias, can you maybe have a listen to the sound design that I made for now, because I'm not sure if this is good enough." And then he listened through the thing, and he gave me just 3 quick tips, or maybe just one big tip, that made me rework the whole movie. Because he said, "Yeah, I'm listening through your ambiances, and you have almost always those blocks of 4 ambiances.
Hmm.
When I solo through, for example, an indoor scene, I just hear like 4 room tones, and the one is like shh, the other is like, the next one is like shh, and the third one is like shh, and combined they're like shh, but one of them is enough. What I need is a variety of different elements that help me to shape
Hmm.
the soundscape. And if I want to interfere, I can then use this tool and make it louder. Or
Hmm.
so I need you can even relate to your waveforms. If you put 4 tracks on top of each other or stack
Hmm.
them and all have the same type of waveform, it doesn't make sense. And
Hmm.
this learning was so huge for me that I spent the whole weekend, because this was, I think, on a Friday, and the final mix started on Monday. So I had to rework the whole movie over the
Hmm.
weekend. But the difference that it made for me, this was a life lesson,
Hmm.
this was the most important lesson for me when it comes to background sound design.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Background
could go
sound
on with,
is tricky, especially on dialogues that are, recorded
I
outside
could,
or.
I could go on with that stories throughout my career. Like, also when I started to become a Foley artist, um, I was not shy in asking re-recording mixers how they liked it, and
Mm.
then really taking on their feedback. Even if I didn't really understand or
Yeah.
didn't agree with the feedback, I still took it into account. And this went to the most absurd feedbacks that I was really devastated with. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there was like a guy who was a really senior Foley artist and almost at the verge of retirement. And I knew his work at the moment when we were communicating was not the
Mm.
best that he ever did. So he used to work with the huge producers from Germany,
Mm.
uh, like real legends, you know. But back then he was already like on his decline, let's say. So I didn't really appreciate his work as it was too much because I had to deal with that sometimes as an editor or even mix the stuff.
Mm.
So I wasn't too happy with this, but still, I saw him as this experienced guy that really
Of
has
course.
a legacy in recording Foley.
Mm.
So I was then really proud of a project that we finished. And then I sent it over to him and asked him for feedback. And basically, the feedback was really devastating. He basically told me, "Be the deer," and what he meant by that was you have to empathize more with the character. He basically said it sounds
Mm.
all mechanical what you do. You don't have feeling. And I think that's the worst thing that you can tell
Especially for a
someone.
Foley artist,
Yeah.
where
And
you
then
have to be the actor, sort of.
exactly. And he was basically treating me like his students back in the days. Like this
Mm.
was always what I told my students. Like I'm working professionally for 10 years already, and now I try my best to become a very good Foley artist. That's why I'm asking you, and you give me like an answer like "be the deer,"
Mm.
and then it was really hard for me to take.
I
But
think, sometimes
even
also,
that to finish that,
yeah, yeah, of
even that,
course.
even though it was kind of insulting, even though I could not really agree to this,
Mm.
I still took it into account and I made it my goal to be more of a performer, to be more
Mm.
empathetic, to really get this thing to that this guy will never say that be the
Mm.
deer again, And
And I think that's what matters with this kind of feedback. The kind of like those feedbacks that are very bad and kind of like mean. I would say, yeah, mean feedbacks. Let's put it like this. I think those feedbacks, we should take them as like, okay, don't take them too seriously, but at the same time, the next time you ask this person for a feedback, or the next time this person sees your work, you have to make it as this person will just shut up. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah, in a way
it's
it is
really,
like that. Yeah,
it was
definitely,
like
I agree.
this. It's, this happened also to me, sometimes. And I try to take it, like, okay, like, let's try to decide this desiccate, like, desiccate, when you're like kind of like opening a body, or like,
Mm,
um let's try to understand what he was trying to tell in a more, um like, interesting way for me to be able to grow, and not just, to feel so little, because,
or hold a grudge or something.
yeah, to try to restructure what he was trying to tell. Some people are just mean by personality, and
Mm.
and
Or
and
by
and
accident. Maybe they don't mean to
no,
be
but there's
mean.
just, those people, usually I felt like there's this. That's why I think any jobs as kind of psychological way, and we all have to deal with this, and of course we're not psychologists, but you need to be a bit, you need to be able to understand people and egos, and I think to be able to work with them, especially in a creative field.
Mm,
And that's why I think when working in a creative field, you need even more to be some sort of a psychologist, in a way, that you have to understand that, maybe this person was really mean because he's not loved, or maybe he's like, maybe there's something personal about him that makes him so bitter.
Hmm.
And it's fine, you know, this person is not your dad or is not someone that you love. So in a way that, you know, it's like someone in the street just telling you that you're a dick. Well, all right, well, I won't take it personally because I don't care about you, you know. But I understand the way that it can touch you, especially when you're younger in the industry, because it can make you feel so little and can make you lose your passion in a way that, oh, maybe I'm not worth enough to do this job, or you know.
Hmm.
And you know, maybe some people it's because they're just mean because they're not loved, or maybe because they're jealous of what you do, and maybe they would have loved to be you back at their times, you know what I mean. I,
Hmm.
back when I was also working with you know, like I was also trying to get my hands on things and trying to learn from senior people. I met a lot of senior people that were actually really mean, I think. And not only to me, that, you know, that's just the thing, like I feel. And in France it was a lot like this, like it's a lot about the, you know, like you have to be grateful even though people are mean to you, towards your work when you're young, because you know you're not good enough, or you're just, you know, you don't come from the right school, so you're like,
Hmm.
you're not worthy my time, or you're not worthy my feedback. Or there's like a lot of things like this that I think when I was young I was taking it really personally, and it was like really making me cry at night, you know, like I was, whoa, this is really hard to take on. But with time I learned this lesson, you know. And I think from my parents, actually my parents were like, you know, you have to become a psychologist, you have to become an observer, you know,
Hmm.
to in order to succeed, especially I think in your industry. Even though my parents don't come from any creative field, but my mom, for example, is a psychologist, and she was telling me like it's important to become an observer, you know, to be
Hmm.
able to understand who people are, in order to understand their way of working, you know. And I think this really helped me today, because now that I have way more background, way more experience, and now that I'm confident with my work and what I do, and even though I'm confident, I'm still learning every day, you know. I'm speaking with people, like even on LinkedIn. Yesterday, for example, I was talking to the principal sound designer on Diablo 4, and we're like sharing techniques on the with the geophone about how to, you know, create new sounds. And I think that's, you know, I think this industry, you have to stay always curious, and
Hmm.
you know, even though maybe like as a young person you're not good, and people are trying to make you feel that you're not good enough at the moment, you have to still keep on grinding and try to keep this curiosity, because maybe you're not good enough today, but tomorrow you're going to be great. And what will make you great tomorrow is because you kept this curiosity within you yourself,
Hmm.
and you didn't kind of like discourage yourself, because of those feedbacks that were, you know, really mean. And you know, I think just some people are just bad at teaching, they're just bad at, you know, giving feedbacks.
So
And
that's a great way to come to an end. So this encouragement that you just gave out is a huge compliment to everyone who's really serious about making something
yeah,
out of this, being a sound person. And also for the two of us, I think we should definitely help each other out and be the best mentors we can be. And
yeah,
that's why I'm also so happy that you want to join the Pro Audio Academy and handling all the game audio parts, where I'm taking more the linear media stuff on. And I think we can really make a difference and help people and be kind and give honest feedback.
yeah.
Um,
And I think it's
so,
also better for them to learn this, you know, to learn as young as possible, to be easy to work with, to be caring, and to, you know, this is how great games or great movies just come to life, is because people also, I mean, they're great designers and great mixers or whatever, but they also really care about each other's work, and they communicate this goodwill to each other, and that's what also makes a great project, I think.
Yeah, with this having said, I really want to thank you for taking the time. It was an awesome experience, I think, especially for younger people who are starting out. This episode has a high value. So thank you very much, and keep in touch, and let's keep grinding, do the work, and also do the mentoring stuff on another level.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Thank you very much for staying up until the end. It means a lot to me, and I hope you could gain some useful knowledge that helps you to elevate within your career in pro audio. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do so. It helps us a great deal, and we also want to make the show better and better, and to continue the show as well is one of our biggest goals. If you have questions or feedback, just put them in the comments and I'm happy to get back to you. You can also reach me via DM on LinkedIn or Instagram, and you can even set up a free mentoring call with me and we can talk strategy and see if we match for you to enter the Pro Audio Academy. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy the next episode. Peace, the Fodi Teacher.